Good afternoon. This is Carol Kennedy with ApplicantStack. We'd like to thank you for joining. We're just going to give everyone just a couple of minutes to dial in. We do have some folks still joining, and then we will be back. We are just a couple of minutes past, so we'd like to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone again for joining today for our Ask Me Anything session. I do want to introduce my colleagues who are also on the call. We have Brandon Peterson and Ellen Benzine, who are also ApplicantStack account managers, and myself, Carol Kennedy. Our agenda today, we'll be talking about skills-based hiring and ApplicantStack. So we'll be talking about some industry trends, a shift we're seeing towards skill-based hiring. We'll be talking about how to use ApplicantStack for that. So for example, job descriptions and why that's important, and also pre-screening questionnaires and scoring that you can use to really kind of take a deeper dive into those skill sets and screening your candidate pool as they are coming into the system. We'll also talk about interview comment sheets, which will help you during the interview process really keep track of your interview process, questions that you're asking your candidates, and so forth. We do have a link here that I believe will be going into the chat. LinkedIn, you can post a LinkedIn through ApplicantStack, so it's a great resource. Quick article about future recruiting and kind of trends that they're seeing. They've talked to, their customers, industry leaders, and so forth. And then we'll be sure to open up the floor for questions, and we'll do our best to answer those questions for you. As far as skills-based hiring, changing market conditions, we've seen it's been more and more challenging to hire and fill skills that are needed in the workforce. According to LinkedIn, a skills-based approach will aid in building the workforce of the future. So from their research, they found that 73% of recruiting professionals say hiring based on skills is a priority. And skills-based hiring really means that now we're more focusing on the actual skills that candidates have versus just looking for a degree or previous job titles. And in doing that, that will help employers increase their talent pools by 10 times. This will help uncover qualified workers that were perhaps overlooked in the past. So we see, quite a bit degrees being required for positions that perhaps that's not actually the case. And that will help also advance diversity. So for example, I did like this little term here, workers skilled through alternative routes or STARS. That would account for 70 million workers in the US. So by really expanding our search to include those candidates, that is helping to increase our candidate pools. And we have seen the number of jobs listed on LinkedIn that omit degree requirements increased 36% between 2019 and 2022. So again, this is a trend that we are seeing in the industry. You may be worried if I open up my candidate pool, maybe I'll be getting more and more candidates. That might be a little bit overwhelming. I know from being a recruiter in the past, you can get hundreds and hundreds of applications for one job, and it's sometimes a little bit of a task to make it through all of those candidates. So a couple of things we did want to mention as far as first, using your job description to really help get the right candidates interested in your role. And then we'll talk about how to set up pre-screening questions and interview comment sheets to really narrow in on those skills that you are looking for. So as far as your job description, that is really your first impression to your candidates, to the organization. It will list responsibilities, company values, benefits to the organization. Having been a recruiter myself, I've been through a lot of training on how to write an effective job ad. It is very challenging. You've got a limited window in which to capture candidate attention. So, people are jumping from thing to thing, that they may not have a lot of time. They're on their mobile device. So you really need to go ahead and capture their attention as quickly as possible. We want to clarify necessary skills and differentiate those from nice to haves so as not to alienate or discourage our candidate pool. So if you hit them with a list of 20 requirements that are listed as absolutely must-haves, they may balk at that and say, well, I'm not 100% fit, maybe I shouldn't apply to this. And I have seen that just in my own personal experience. People have said, should I apply to this job? Should I not? There's a lot of requirements here. I can do 80% of it. So we really want to be, cognizant of that. Job description is an opportunity to set the expectations for the job. So candidates come on board. We want to be as clear and as precise as we can in listing those out. Maybe those skills can be learned on the job. So maybe an 80% fit would be okay, and we can teach the remaining 20%. So you may want to consider modifying your job postings and or your templates in the ApplicantStack library to really make sure you're being as clear as possible about what's absolutely required, what's nice to have. We will hop into the system and show you how to create pre-screening questionnaires and scoring. So you can use pre-screening questionnaires to evaluate those skills that you are looking for. So we mentioned you may receive a lot of applicants. This is going to help you narrow down what you're looking for, those candidates that are best fit. You can assign point values to answers or knock out answers, and that will allow you to focus your time on the best suited candidates. A knockout or KO will display an alert, as we can see here, and we'll go into that in just a bit, but it does not prevent the candidate from applying. So it's possible maybe they're a fit for another role. It's possible maybe they just clicked the wrong answer. So sometimes they may say, no, I don't have a degree, no, I don't have this skill set. But if you go into their background, they really do, and it was just truly a misclick. So we don't want to prevent them from applying. We just want to be aware of that. Okay, you can use your interview comment sheets to dive deeper into those skill sets. That will give you the opportunity to have a standardized list of questions. And the benefit of that is you won't forget to ask anything as you're going through. So as a recruiter, I would always have standard questions that I would try to ask everybody. And that was very helpful to have that, so I didn't forget one. As sometimes you get sidetracked and just forget to ask. As far as your hiring managers, that's going to give them a level of comfort. They may not be used to hiring very often. They may not be aware of what questions they're allowed to ask from a legal standpoint or not. So having that interview comment sheet is really going to help them with that process. It's going to allow you to compare apples to apples. So if we ask the same questions of each candidate, maybe we rank them on their skill set, that's going to give you a way to truly compare. Again, make sure you're drawing a good comparison there. It's going to give you an audit trail. So if you ever have a question why you hired one candidate over another, you have that information documented that you can refer back to. You can use interview comment sheets to collaborate with your team members. So maybe sit down, everyone pull your interview comment sheets up and talk about it you can use that to make your best decisions. And the interview comment sheet is highly customizable. We do have a couple of examples for you that you are free to use in the system, or you can create your own, or you can modify what's already in there. Again, so we'll hop in and show you how to do that in just a bit. We do want to mention our upcoming events. We do have on June 27th, we have another Ask Me Anything session about ensuring engagement. And then on June 18th, we will have a webinar, ApplicantStack Recruit overview, and we'll be talking about creating reports specifically. We do get asked about creating reports quite frequently, so that is definitely a hot topic that we would love to have you attend. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and hop into our system. And be sure to show you around just a little bit. Okay, and with that, we had mentioned perhaps modifying your job descriptions. I did want to point out really quickly, the focus of this Ask Me Anything today is more geared towards those questionnaires and those interview comment sheets. But I did want to mention in the library, we have our job templates. You can create a template for your job, enter your job description here. Again, make sure your skills are evaluated, what's truly needed, what's nice to have, and then you'll have that template to pull off of moving forward. So we have just the quick sample generic template in here, responsibilities, qualifications, and then you would simply want to modify that. Let's talk about setting up scoring in the system. So those pre-screening questionnaires, you have two places that you could do that from. So as you are creating your job, let's go into our accounting manager job. Let's go over to scoring, and we will create a rule. We are going to pull up our questionnaire, and we saw little snippets of this earlier, but pull up general questions. This could be specific to the role as well, or it can be general questions. It's really customizable. What are you prompting your candidates to answer as they are coming into the system? So in this case, perhaps we don't have the budget to do a relocation. Maybe that's a question. Are you currently local? If they're not, that can be a KO. And if they are, we want to give them some points for that answer. Do you have experience with XYZ skill? Maybe if that's a requirement, no gives you a KO. Gonna give some more points if they answer yes. How many years of experience do you have? Maybe we are not able to accommodate entry level, but maybe we want to give increasing point values as we have increasing experience. Very similarly, we can set that up in the library as well. So again, the library will have templates that you can use time and time again. If we find those general questions and we come over to view details, you would see add rules. Mine says edit because I've already got some information in there. So if we come down, very similar to what we just did, we can set those rules up in the library as well. Okay, so what does that look like when those questions are answered? Let's come over to our candidate tab. I do want to go ahead and open up these filters to pull everybody that we have. And then what you can do is click on the column header for score. And I'm going to click one more time to pull those up to the top. And you can see this candidate had a score of 20. This candidate has a score of 10. Perhaps you want to focus on those candidates with a little bit higher score first. And that should hopefully save you some time. And then let's go ahead and talk about those KOs. So in this pinkish reddish alert color, we have that KO. Let's come into Elizabeth's profile. We can see here's that KO again. If we come down, we can see the answers to those general questions. And then we can see which questions specifically were of concern. So in this case, they're not local. They don't have the skill set that we are looking for. So that will be kind of an indicator to you. You may want to just give their profile a quick review. Again, sometimes it may have just been a misclick, but you can give that a quick review, make sure that that is legitimate. Okay, so that is, as your candidates are applying to the system, they're coming in, they're answering those questions, that is going to help you filter through your candidate pool. Once we get to the interview process, let's go ahead and talk about those interview comment sheets. This is one area of the system that I think is underutilized just a little bit. You don't know what you don't know. So if you haven't used this, you may not be aware it's even there. But I'm in our library, I'm under questionnaires, and we have interview evaluation form 1 and 2 as an example for you. Those are free for you to use. You can go ahead and use the clone functionality. So let's say it's pretty close to what you want to use. You just maybe want to modify it a little bit. You can make a copy, or maybe you have a different interview comment sheet for different positions. You can clone that, make your changes, and customize that for each role. You can edit as well, or you can outright create a new one from scratch. But let's go ahead and hop into that interview comment sheet. Number 1, so number 2 has a slightly different format, but perhaps we want to evaluate our candidate on different areas or skill sets. We can rank them from 1 to 5. Maybe we want to do a second interview. We can put some general comments in there. Okay, let's go ahead and take a peek at our second evaluation form. So same idea, a little bit different format. Exceeds me, this needs a little more training. We can make some comments, work experience, technical skills. So you can really create this however you need to evaluate the skill set of those candidates. Let's go ahead and talk about how to assign those for completion. Let's go into George Blake's profile. We'll use George as our test subject. We will come over to feedback. So we can see we already have one completed. Let's go ahead and click on Submit Questionnaire, Interview Eval Form 2, and we can go ahead and complete this, submit that, and that is going to go ahead and track with the candidate's history. A little bit newer functionality, it's been several years, but we have a feedback rating. Perhaps we want to use that from 1 to 5 stars, just a different way to visualize that feedback. And we had mentioned if you ever have an audit or you need to compare one candidate to another, this is really going to give you that quantitative data you need to do that to either justify your decision or help in that decision-making process. A second way to assign that would be via, let's use George again, via your candidate table. We can go ahead and schedule event. And let's go ahead, come down to the bottom. We can assign that interview feedback form, send a reminder every 3 days, every 4 days. And up at the top, we can assign that to our interview team. So who will be in that interview? They will get a reminder every few days to come in and complete that interview feedback form. So I like that option. It keeps them accountable to go ahead and come in and provide that feedback just to make sure that you actually receive that. Again, it's helpful to have it in the system for collaboration purposes. Maybe somebody's out of the office, you need to refer back to it. It's really best practice to have that tracked in one place. So I would highly encourage you to use that information. And with that, we'd like to open up the floor for questions. Questions can be anything ApplicantStack related, ApplicantStack Recruit, ApplicantStack Onboard. We like to keep it very informal, discussion flowing back and forth, and we'll do our best to answer those questions for you. And I believe Ellen is going to be helping with those today. So Ellen, take it away if you would.
I am helping. Thank you. Great job, Carol. And
Thank you.
Questions are beginning to come in. Let's see what comes in, Carol. And while I'm looking at them, can you just review, please, how to submit a technical support ticket and access to our help center? And then we'll go with those questions.
Sure, I would love to. So we do encourage everyone, if you ever have a question or need some help with the system, to go ahead, this orange and white question mark up in the upper right of the system. We've got our help center. You can do a quick search. Chances are we will have either a how-to or a video for you. So you can see we've got a few things regarding using questionnaires here. So feel free to give that a try. If you are still stuck, go ahead and click on Ask a Question, and that will open up the option for you to create a support case. So you'll just want to populate your information so we can get back in touch with you. Please be careful about the email. Sometimes the email is typed in incorrectly, and then we hear we're not getting a response. So that would be why. So just be careful as you're entering that. And go ahead, put as much detail as you can into that question. If you have screenshots, that would be really helpful as well. And we will definitely get back to you as soon as we can to help with that question.
Excellent. All right, thanks, Carol. We do have questions coming in. And for those of you out there, please feel free to submit your question. They can be questions. It can be on anything ApplicantStack, Recruit, and onboarding. The first question, Carol, is how do I launch my job to our local community college job board?
Sure. So let's go ahead. I do want to walk you through our job posting screen. And if I come to our launch tab, we do have our standard job boards here, the public job board, internal job board, Indeed, Job Target, Career Builder, and so forth. So Ellen, you mentioned that with a local, what was the source?
Community college is what it said.
Okay, so as we can see, that is not an option up here. So we can use the manual posting links in that case. I'll show you where to create the source in just a second. But we can create that source and then use one of the first two URLs here. So you can go out to that site. This link here will bring candidates back to the job listing page. And then the second link here will go ahead and take them. It will bypass that job description and bring them directly into the online application. So it's really up to you what step in the process do you want them to come into. So if we want to put our job description on that site, maybe we want to bypass that and just have them come directly into the application. So you'll select your source and keep an eye on the last part of this URL here for me. If I change that, that will change slightly, and that is how the system knows where they saw that job posting, and they will go ahead and track that. Well, that will be tracked in ApplicantStack for you where they came from. And to set that up, you'll simply come to your setup, you'll come to configure and application fields, and the source is listed here. So those options that we just saw are here. You would simply add an option and type that in, whatever your local source is or niche site that you're posting to.
All right, thank you, Carol. And just to expand on what you just said, those niche sites, ApplicantStack can track the source, again, where your candidates saw your job postings. And that's important, especially if you're paying to post somewhere. So you want to make sure you're getting your return on investment. And what Carol just showed you is a great way to post jobs on niche job boards, but still track where your candidates came from. And of course, the benefit of ApplicantStack is you can then manage all those candidates regardless of where they saw your job descriptions within ApplicantStack. Excellent, Carol. All right. Next question, is there a cost for all the boards? So you want to go back to the Launch tab and just, or set up whatever you feel comfortable in doing and just share what are paid sites and what are free sites, Carol?
Sure thing. A general rule of thumb, the options here that say view details, those would require a separate paid subscription or account or paid inventory with those sites. So let's talk about job target to start. They have 25,000 plus jobs or sites that you can post to. Some are quote unquote free, but there will be a minimal delivery fee to post to that site. Some also have a charge on top of that, but it's very transparent as you're going through that process, what your cost would be to post there. Career Builder, Dice, Monster, ZipRecruiter, you do need to have paid inventory or an account with those organizations. Google for Jobs, Indeed, Organic, and LinkedIn Limited. There is not a charge to post there. The exception would be Indeed. In some situations, for example, if you're a third-party staffing firm, they may require you to use sponsored or paid postings. Typically they do, but that is an Indeed determination. So if they approve you for free or organic postings, you can post to Indeed for free. Indeed sponsored would be a cost to post there, so that gives you some additional visibility. And as you post to Indeed sponsored, so there would be a charge associated with that. Public job board is tied to your website. There's no additional charge to post there. Internal job board could be tied to your intranet, or perhaps you email out a link. There's no cost for that. Twitter, LinkedIn, social media posts, those are free of charge. So hopefully that helps. So again, typically if you see view details, there would be a charge. Indeed sponsored has a charge. The other options, there would not be an additional charge. Manual posting links, it really is site dependent. So I know Craigslist used to be free, now they do charge. So it's really going to be site dependent on those sources.
Excellent. And there is a great article on Job Target in the Help Center. And again, as Carol said, that is a job board aggregator. So through Job Target, you can launch your jobs to over 25,000 job boards. So really opens up where individuals can see your jobs. All right, Carol, the next question has to do with public job board and making it more welcoming to candidates and how to brand it a bit or share culture and vision.
Sure. So we do have a free of charge option is our standard job board. So let me go ahead and hop into the public job board settings. So set up to job boards to our public job board and edit settings. Your first step might be you can upload a logo up to the top to personalize that to your organization just a little bit. And then if we come down, we can change the opening page instructions, the resume instructions, and so forth. So you may want to say below is a list of current jobs. Please click on an opening of interest. So you can modify those on your own and just be sure to save that. Okay, so that will put your logo up at the top and allow you to customize those messages. Option 2, if you would like to pursue this option, let's go to Open Job Board as an example. We can brand a custom job board skin for you to match the general look and feel of your site. There would be a customization charge for that. So if you're interested, we can certainly share that information. But that would be a process our professional services team would go in and really try to provide that seamless look and feel. You would embed that link on your site, and then candidates will have a more seamless transition from the home page to the careers page and so forth.
Very good. Thank you, Carol. The next question has to do with collecting EEO data. This company is growing a bit and anticipate the need to collect EEO data. How does ApplicantStack do that?
Right. Let's go back to our job board and let's click on a job, and I believe it is attached. So if we click apply now, in this example, I come down, it typically comes to the very bottom. We have our EEO information. So we do have a standard questionnaire set up to collect that information. We have the CC305, the disability, and we have Ellen, I'm drawing a blank. What's the second? Veterans.
Vevra.
Help me out here. So we do have those standard in the system. You can attach them. You can have our support team automatically attach those if you would like. So it automatically attaches to your jobs. You're not having to remember to attach that information.
And Carol, I'm just going to take that a step further.
Sure.
If candidates choose to self-disclose information, such as Vevra status, EEOC data, etc., you can run reports on that information through ApplicantStack, because sometimes you do need to provide those reports to, the upper level HR or Department of Labor or whatever the case might be. So again, through ApplicantStack, you can collect the data and run reports on that data. Carol happens to be in our report section right now, and she is highlighting some of those EEO reports.
Right. So let's go ahead and run that. I don't have a filter for date on there, but just wanted to show you. It's pretty standard. Everyone should kind of recognize this. If you are collecting that information, this should look pretty familiar to you. You can run that. You can export that out of the system.
Excellent. Next question, Carol, had to do with your job board.
Mm-hmm.
You can bring that back, open your job board back up again, please.
Sure. And open job board.
Yep. And it has to do with your filters. And then there's a second question about how to show more information on the job board, like whether a salary range as an example.
Sure. So you can go ahead in your settings, and our support team can help you with this if you need it. But we do have the option to go ahead and, for example, maybe your candidates just want to see a job in the finance department. So we can see we have our department listed here. We can go ahead and apply that, and that will just pull out those finance jobs for your candidate. Okay, so a couple of things we need to do to set that up. Let's go ahead and come into our job board again. And we have those filters here, so we want to make sure that's toggled to yes. And we can see here we would need to set up those field types. It would need to be a text, a pick list, or a multi-select field. Okay, and I believe that's under job fields. Ellen, correct me if I'm wrong. But this is where that was set up, so we can see location, department, is that a full-time or a part-time job? So this is where we would configure that, and then we can filter off that information, again, assuming it fits that format requirement.
Mm-hmm. And where you are, Carol, is where you've got salary range in there. So any of those fields that Carol has in there can be toggled to public, which means they would then show on your job board. So if you wanted to share additional information, then what the default job board shows is you can certainly add those fields and then again make them public, and that means candidates can see the information in those fields.
Great, fantastic.
All right. Onboarding question, Carol, for you is, and this is something that we've dealt with in the past, is if a candidate in Recruit doesn't go to onboarding, why would that be?
Sure. Typically what that means is that's a rehire. So you might want to think through first, is this person coming back to the organization? That's what we typically see. And so let's go ahead, let's toggle over to our onboard side. And we want to look at the email address for that hire. If the email address is the same, that will prevent them from being pushed over to the onboard side. So in that case, what you might want to do is just edit this hire record and modify that email. Maybe add carol.kennedy.old or add a 1 or a 2, something of that sort, just to make that different enough that the email will be different and we can push that candidate over at that point.
Right,
Okay.
and then you're saving the integrity of the original hire record because you would probably want to do that. And then you can populate the individual's second new hire record, for lack of a better term. All right. Thank you, Carol. Right, it looks like those are the questions for this afternoon so far. Please don't hesitate to input your questions. Again, they can be on anything ApplicantStack. We are here to answer them for you. Carol, while there are any other questions coming through, will you just show them how to access Allie's blogs, please?
Sure thing. From the homepage. So I know I went outside the blogs today for that LinkedIn article, but from the homepage, we do have our announcements section and we have our resources as well. So let's see, here's our ApplicantStack blog. So we have news and updates. You can simply click on that, and that's a great resource as well. So we have a variety of different topics. Please feel free to go ahead and review those.
All right. There's a wealth of information in there. I enjoy reading her articles, her blog. Carol, I do not see any other questions coming in. But just to comment, during Ask Me Anything hours, we do review a lot of functionality. And if you do have questions after we hang up, please don't hesitate to submit your questions to our technical support team, and then they will be assigned to the appropriate person, whether or not it's a technical support rep or your account manager. But again, please don't hesitate to ask those questions if they come up, like, oh my gosh, Carol mentioned something about a 5-star system. Where was that? I forgot. Please submit a ticket. We're glad to answer your questions. I think that's it, Carol.
Thanks, Ellen. Thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks for joining, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Carol. Bye-bye.
Everyone, take care. Bye-bye.